So recently, one of the modern DBD goats, Killa Whale, made a video. And if you're not a follower of Killa Whale, I would advise you go and check out his content because honestly, it's just fantastic stuff. And in a day and age where it's like, oh man, I need new content creators to check out, Killa Whale would definitely be a good one to go and watch because honestly, he just makes the most engaging stuff. He likes to, at one point in time, he called himself the internet historian of Dead by Daylight, even though I think, no disrespect intended, and in fact, compliment intended, I think he makes for more of a ghost gum of DBD content. But either way, this guy made a video called I Found Out Why Survivors Are So Mad All the Time. And despite what you might think from the name of that video, it's not an anti-survivor video. It's basically a video where he realized that the average DBD survivor does not like a vast majority of the killers, and therefore they're setting themselves up to not enjoy the game very much because they're going to be at a high likelihood of facing a killer they don't like to face very much. And as soon as I saw this, I was very interested because what I've been working on here, and I've been working on a couple videos, which is why you haven't seen one in a while for me, because I've been working on quite a few, and what I realized is that unfortunately, by working on multiple videos at one time, I haven't been able to get any of them out here lately. So I do apologize for that, but I've been working on one about my least favorite thing about every killer. So this was interesting. This was something I'd been thinking about already of why do people not like certain killers? And I thought that was interesting. So I wanted to take Killa Whale's test here, where he basically asked the question of, okay, what percentage of the roster do you like? What percentage do you dislike? And are you setting yourself up to not have a good time? Do you just not necessarily enjoy Dead by Daylight as much? So I want to go through them. I want to do all the killers and say, okay, do I like them? Do I not? And I want to ultimately come up with a percentage here. So if you take nothing else from this video, remember, these are all my opinions. Do I like them? Do I not? Remember to let me know down below. Do you like which killers? Which ones do you not like? You know, all that, the usual stuff. And then, by the way, go watch Killa Whale's video if you haven't seen it already, because it is good work and it was a very fun watch. Now, with all that said, we have a lot of killers to get to and only so much time. So let's get to it. Number one is Trapper. What I'm going to do with each of these is I am just going to give them a simple grade. Enjoy, don't enjoy. Those are the two categories, and we're starting with Trapper. Trapper is going to go in the enjoy category. And by the way, at the end, we're going to tally it up and see what percentage of killers I enjoy facing off against. I encourage you at home to do the same yourself. Let me know what percentage you enjoy going up against. So Trapper, I enjoy. It's almost always fun to face the Trapper. Admittedly, yeah, they're generally easy to loop. I do respect the skill and planning it takes to play Trapper well. Admittedly, I tire of Bloody Coil and all that, but I can't blame Trapper mains. I think that just, it makes a lot of sense that they do it the way they do it. And overall, yeah, I've got nothing against the Trapper. Trapper's a fun killer to face. Next up is the Wraith. Wraith is going to go in the don't enjoy category. Hit and run playstyles can be all right, but most of the Wraith's kit is just, it's a bunch of Z's. I don't enjoy this killer in a general sense of the word. I'm trying to not let stereotypes influence me, and maybe that's two killers in here. Maybe I should give my criteria. Generally, I am assuming this killer is facing a team of survivors that at least kind of know what they're doing, and the killer kind of knows what they're doing. So we're not talking about cracked people on either side. Absolutely just top tier stuff. I'm just talking about in a general sense, you know, assuming these characters are being played properly and they're facing survivors that know how to do gens, how to basically loop all that. How are they? So all that being said, I'm not taking in the worst case scenarios, but with that being said, I'm trying not to let stereotypes influence me, I guess. But Wraith mains are DBD's worst mains. I'm sorry to say it. You may be a Wraith main, you may be fantastic, but on average, they're really, I find them to be the least pleasant mains in all of DBD. At least on the killer side of things. I do like Wraith a lot more, or at least I did like Wraith a lot more when you could flashlight burn him, but obviously the devs took that out. I'm not a big fan of that. I would probably enjoy facing this killer more if they didn't run Silent Bell or wall hacks all the time, but that's really all they run in my experience. And I know it's like, oh, well, isn't that a stereotype? It's like, yeah, this is one I'm cheating on. I'm not going to cheat on many of these, but I'm going to cheat on Wraith and say that y'all kind of did this one to yourselves, so I'm sorry. Next is Hillbilly. Hillbilly will go in the enjoy category. Look, there's a reason everybody enjoys facing Billy. it's a game that is high risk and high reward whenever you go up against the Hillbilly. It's much more fun now that the Insta-Saw is gone, even though I will say they need to do the guy a favor and get rid of the overheat. Next is Nurse. Nurse is, look, more than any other entry, this one is defined by my criteria that we're taking into account. Good or worse, right? Good or worse players. We're not talking about the absolute cracked nurses where you have absolutely no shot. Because, look, if you're facing a top-tier nurse, no, it's not fun. It's cheating. It's horrible. It's not fun at all. Cracked nurses ruin everything. They stink. I don't enjoy it, even though I say they stink. Like, as people, they're great. They committed to the character. They learned it, whatever. All that's great. But typically speaking, no, nobody enjoys facing an absolutely cracked nurse. But I do think if you're going up against an average, good, somewhere in that range of nurse, predicting their next blink and breaking line of sight is genuinely exciting. So yeah, I enjoy that. Next is the Shape, Michael Myers. Discard every nice thing that I say here if it's a Tombstone Myers, even though really I love Mike's Mori, so even that isn't, it's not too bad. Staring contest with the Shape will always be funny. I'm not sorry. I enjoy doing it. The killer is just too goofy to hate, and Scratch Mirror Myers is peak DBD, especially if it's on an indoor map. And I can't remember if I said it, but yeah, Shape gets an enjoy. Next is the Hag, and Hag goes into enjoy. So there was a time where I hated Hag, but I've come to somewhat appreciate her. Obviously, Hag can be played in an obnoxious way, but proactive survivor play is rewarded against her. And, you know, that's what I like. I like it where the game rewards you for actually going out of your way to combat the killer rather than just like slamming gens. I think that's fun. So aggressive Hags make for great games, make for exciting games. Can't believe I'm saying it. And there are going to be some people that I've been very, you know, I've disappointed some people by hating Hag in the past, and I still do kind of get headaches from the sound she makes when she teleports. I don't know why. That's just, that's a very minor accessibility issue. I don't ask them to change it on my account because I'm one player out of like, you know, thousands upon thousands, but I don't love that. But outside of that, Hag is fun to play. Next up is Doctor. Doctor goes in the don't enjoy, and that's going to surprise some people, I know, because Doctor is far from overpowered, and honestly, I don't dislike him that much, but Doctor games do tend to drag on, and I don't love that. He is the closest to passing that any of the failures came, but I just can't find the insanity gimmick to be all that great. I think it's cooler in theory than it is in reality. And this is unrelated, but have y'all ever noticed how Doctor has some of the least talented mains in all of DBD? Like, I can't explain it, but Doctor players just have a tendency to be absolutely cheeks. And again, maybe you play Doctor and you're cracked, but it doesn't influence his ranking here, but I just want to find a space to vent about that. But next up is Huntress. Huntress goes in the enjoy. So there are times where Huntress is frustrating, namely mid-level loops where it's like, okay, there's literally nothing I can do here. But outside of that, she's pretty cool. Getting hit across the map is just respectable. Honestly, I never get mad about a cross-map hatchet. That's just cool. And then the only downside is M1ing with this killer is a sin. So if you're playing Huntress, stop M1ing. Be a grown-up. Hit me with your M2 or don't hit me at all. Next is Bubba. Bubba gets an enjoy. Gosh, Bubba, this is my absolute favorite killer to face. And it's not even close. Hurriedly rushing from one pallet to the next is very fun, especially if the Bubba is good enough to moonwalk and actually play around pallets instead of just kind of eating them. You would think, by the way, that getting camped by face or by proxy would be a negative, but Bubba gets a pass from me, and that's not changing. I would just say if you don't like it, stop taking this game so seriously because, okay, guys, camping Bubba, it's a meme, it's funny, there's really no reason to get bent out of shape about it. Next up is the Nightmare, Freddy Krueger, and I don't have anything I particularly like about facing Freddy. See my most recent video for more details on that, but he is definitely not frustrating to face either. Freddies that use fake pallets and frequently bait teleports are a cut above the rest, and if I could just add a quick little note here, I think the behavior should really just make the dream world permanent, TBH, because I think that makes Freddy more fun on both ends. Next up is the Pig. Pig gets an enjoy. She goes in the green category here. So booping the snoot is tired and played out, but everything else about the Pig is lots of fun. Looping a pig that actually uses the dash ability is one of the most fun experiences the game has to offer, and reverse bear traps are a cool secondary objective, which, by the way, I think Behavior did a great job with them. Next is the clown, who goes in Don't Enjoy. So, as a clown main, I love everything about the clown, except facing him. Clowns that use yellow bottles do add a layer of intrigue, but frankly, most of them don't seem to use the yellow bottles, so that goes out the window. Again, I am slightly cheating here. Some players suffer from motion sickness with Clown, but I can't use that excuse. I just really suck at the game, specifically at looping Clown. So for me, it is a sad case where I wish I could love facing this killer, but sadly, I'm just stuck in a place where I enjoy playing the killer. Next up is the Spirit, who goes in Don't Enjoy. And honestly, I can't think of a single nice thing to say about facing the Spirit. She is a 50-50 simulator, and if she has good headphones, you're done. This is undoubtedly my least favorite killer to face now that Skull Merchant got reworked, so definitely don't enjoy facing her. Next, the Legion goes into Enjoy, and I came close to putting this one in the red, but so long as the Legion actually engages and chases and doesn't just spam Frenzy, this killer can actually be pretty alright to face, and not entirely terrible, especially because they're pretty weak overall, which as a survivor, the weaker a killer is, generally speaking, the more fun they're going to be to face, because you have more opportunity to flex on them, which I don't mean that in a toxic way, I just think that's kind of the reality of it. More than any other killer, this one depends on who my teammates are, though, which is such a hard thing to quantify, because if my teammates insist on healing against the Legion, the match is going to be awful and we're going to get rolled. But if they're okay with being injured, I typically find Legion matches to actually be pretty fun. Next is the Plague, who will go into the Enjoy category. Funnily enough, Plague games are just the same as Legion games. So if my team is cool with being sick and being broken, I will probably typically enjoy the game. If they cleanse at the first sign of the sniffles, however, it's going to be a brutal experience. Plague's damned if you do, damned if you don't gimmick is pretty unique, and I think it's pretty cool, so overall, yeah, enjoy. Next is Ghostface, and I won't lie, part of the fun with Ghosty is just that he's incredibly weak, so you can feel like a much stronger survivor going up against this killer. Being teabagged by the killer is hilarious, and I'm stoked that that's in the game, even if just for one killer. Seeing his goofy little head poke out around corners can be both funny and terrifying, so no doubt in my mind, Ghostface is a very fun one to face. Next up is Demogorgon, who will go into the Enjoy category. Portal cleansing makes for a pretty fun secondary objective if the Demopup is smart enough to actually use the portals, that is, so kind of a big if there. Shred charges a little too quickly for my taste, but it's still an engaging power to try and dodge. I do love how his big dumb onion head pokes out over almost, I would say nearly every loop. So yeah, another one that's an easy enjoy for me. Next is the Oni, who goes into Enjoy. This killer is one big roller coaster. There are lulls and kind of boring spots maybe when he's weak. There are peaks when he's strong. Pre-dropping pallets and conservative early games somehow become exciting against Oni, if only because you know that one hit may well doom your entire team. Like once somebody gets to start bleeding, the snowball has activated. That being said, his 180-degree flicks can feel like absolute trash in the name of fairness. So that is a knock against him, but outside of that, Oni's great. What a great run for killers they had here. Next is Deathslinger, who will also go into the Enjoy category, and this one is probably a top 5 killer in terms of just how fun they are to loop around most tiles, and it's a good thing that reputation doesn't matter here because Slinger mains are generally menaces. I will give extra points though if the Slinger is going for shots with the iridescent coin. That is so fun, and you're just really never mad. If they hit you with a shot from more than 12 meters away, they deserve the down. Next up is Executioner. He breaks our streak of good vibes. He's going to go into the Don't Enjoy, even though it's this one's a little more minor for me. I definitely don't hate Executioner games, but Pyramid Head feels like a slightly less obnoxious spirit to me. There's some level of guessing where he will unleash the punishment of the damned, but it does still feel mostly 50-50 at many tiles. Even if we disregard the reputation, by the way, the pretty bad reputation that Executioner has, this killer was created in a lab to be a tunneling machine, and that's not fun. Nobody likes getting tunneled. It's valid. Go for it. If you're a killer and you want to tunnel, absolutely do it. But, you can't really blame anybody who doesn't love going up against that. But, all that said, don't enjoy him, but he's still a cutie. Next is the Blight, and this one's going to go into the enjoy category. I give Blight a hard time, but it's mostly done in good fun. I like the Blight, I just get tired of facing him so often. But as long as a Blight isn't cracked or crutching with busted add-ons, it's probably going to be one of the best, most exciting games you'll play that day. And good news for you, you'll probably play him like 5 times in any given day. But it's still, dodging Blight rushes is lots of fun, and I do enjoy it. So yeah, good for Blight. Next up is Twins. Twins will go into the enjoy category. Look, I don't care how much they slug. Kicking the baby is legitimately fun, and it makes the twins fun to face, just on account of that. Charlotte, admittedly, is very literally just an M1 killer, but that's her problem. M1s are fun to face as survivors, if only because they're easy to loop, so no issues with Charlotte from that perspective. Next up is the Trickster. Trickster will go into the don't enjoy category, pretty much just a worse Huntress. Because he peppers you with 1,000 knives, the hits also don't feel as skillful, and therefore the downs feel a lot worse. Like, you don't really feel like there's anything you could have done to avoid going down, because he's just going to follow you around, and he's going to hit you with 1 knife, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and eventually you're going to go down. So that's not very fun. Getting hit with main event is about as fun as getting moried because your teammates fed Myers all game while you did gens. It's just this bad feeling of like, well, okay, you charged this, but I didn't really have anything to do with that. And I don't know. Typically, it's really not fun to face Trickster. Again, not horrible. Not like, oh, it's a Trickster game, I'm going to DC. I don't DC. I try really hard. I can't name the last time I DC'd against a non-cheater, but I will say, I kind of get it why people DC against Trickster, even if I still think DCing is generally kind of a weak move. Next is Nemesis, who will go into the enjoy category. The zombies can be very, very annoying, but they can also be funny. So it's a draw, I guess. Denying Nemi his power for as long as possible is a fun cat and mouse game. And, you know, I don't hate the games. Once he's fully charged, Nemesis is admittedly less engaging to go against. But hopefully by that point, you've popped a few gens and you haven't wasted the vaccines early. Please, for all that is holy, stop wasting the vaccines when he's in tier 1, tier 2, whatever. Save those for later in the game. But typically, there are downsides to facing Nemi, but he's not bad. Next is Cenobite. Cenobite will go into the enjoy category just like Nemi. This is probably my second favorite killer to face, and I know that's shocking to a lot of people. But coming from a guy who solo queues most of the time, the complaints about the box are literally a skill issue like 99% of the time. I get it, there are games where he's just going to juggle the box and there's nothing you can do about it. But for the most part, you do have the option to counter that. In addition to that, I think that baiting chains is fun, and really, so is solving the box now that that's more a predictable process and it's easier to avoid the chains and all that. So I really enjoy Cenobite games. I'd like him more if he'd stop moaning every time I stun him, but I guess I'm asking for just too much with that. Next is the Artist. Artist goes into don't enjoy, and this one was tough because I certainly don't hate the Artist, but it can't be a surprise that a killer that is designed to pester survivors isn't exactly fun to face. Her base power is overhated, and while it can be annoying, there's definitely way worse. And really, for me, if Dead Man Switch didn't exist, I'd be cool with putting Artist in the like category. So, you know, take this one with a grain of salt. This one really probably could have been in the green, but yeah, ultimately the perk does exist, and it's just not fun to go up against. Next is Sadako the Onryo, and I know some people enjoy facing Sadako, but she's a very meh killer to me, so I'm going to put her in the don't enjoy category. Her chases aren't remarkable, and it just feels like most Sadakos are rushing for the condemned status as fast as possible, which I know that's fun on their end, but it's not fun for survivors. Admittedly, teleportation can make for fun chases, but that is unreliable, and it's therefore used pretty seldomly in an aggressive way. If Sadakos would start using the teleport more so as a chase resource, which I know that's asking a lot, but that would be fun to try to counter around, but they don't, and I don't enjoy that. Next is the Dredge, who I will put into the enjoy category. Dredge is kind of the opposite of Sadako for me because he is also pretty unremarkable, but I like more than I dislike. So namely, I enjoy that the Dredge players actually use the teleport offensively, which is lots of fun to try to guess, predict, and work around. His remnants can be kind of frustrating. They're not always fun, but it can be entertaining to try to decide whether to burst the remnant or run from the loop. So like I said, remarkable? No, not not at all, but typically leans towards a positive disposition from me. After that, we get Wesker, who will also go into the enjoy category. I think we all got kind of sick of this guy for a while, but that's not because his power is bad, because it's not. At his core, Wesker is one of the best designed chasing killers. I don't love some aspects of the Ouroboros mechanic, but outside of that, he is fantastic. I'm not in love with his jumbo-sized terror radius, but Wesker makes up for his flaws by being very fun to loop, and overall, I'm typically pretty happy when I see him facing a Wesker. Next is the Knight. I'm gonna catch flack for this. Knight goes in Enjoy. So there are about 3 people alive who would agree that Knight is fun to face, and their names are Alejandro, Durkos, and Sander. But to me, still, he is a big Hungarian knight with a cool sword, badass armor, and he makes fun little horn sounds. So I'm allowed to like what I like, and for one reason or another, I like the knight. Moving on, we kind of break the good vibes here. We get the Skull Merchant who goes in Don't Enjoy. It's worth noting that Scully is so much better than she used to be. Gone are the day of 3 gens. Here are the days of putting drones around every loop and forcing you to run to the next one. So it's not great, but it's definitely better. I don't hate Skull Merchant at this point. I still think her aesthetic is weak and all that, but we're judging just, are you glad to see her facing them or not? And at this point, no, I'm not glad to see I'm facing her, but I don't hate her. So she goes in the red, but not by much. After that, we get the Singularity, and look, obsessive 3-gen Singularities, they're not fun in the slightest, but if you go up against any other approach, really, from this killer, the odds are it's going to be a fun game. Trying to survive just long enough to outlast the killer's teleportation boost is lots of fun, assuming that is that you have a vault or pallet to play around. If not, yeah, admittedly, not a good feeling, but it's a well-designed killer that rewards skillful play from both sides, so it gets the mark of approval from me. After the Singularity, we got the Xenomorph, and it's weird. I recognize it's weird to like the Demogorgon and dislike Alien because they are the same killer, but I personally find little enjoyment in facing the Xenomorph. Placing turrets is not inherently bad, but I certainly wouldn't say I enjoy it as far as secondary objectives go. And then there's the fact that, dodging the alien's tail often, the tail attack, it just often feels minimally responsive. Survivor input matters, yes, but if the Xeno was going to hit you, it feels more like it's on the killer if it's going to hit you or not, and less on what the survivor could do. And then finally, we have the most recent killer, which is Chucky, and wow. What a breath of fresh air, because after a questionable run of killers where I disliked Scully and I disliked Alien, and the only kind of, I only kind of liked the Knight in the Singularity, Chucky is a real return to form for the devs. There are times where Chucky's power feels tough to deal with, but more often than not, I find Chucky to be pleasant to go up against, and there is something hilarious to being trash-talked and flipped off by a killer. Some would call it built-in toxicity, but it's best not to take these things too seriously, and yeah, I think Chucky's fun. And ultimately what that leaves me with is 24 killers that I like facing and 10 that maybe I'm not super crazy about facing. So I tried to do the math on this. I am pretty bad at math, but I got that is about a 29% chance that I'm going to have a killer I don't like. So not quite 30%. So it's not even quite a third of games that I'm going to have a bad time with. And out of the ones I dislike, you have some of them, like I mentioned, like Doctor, like Skull Merchant, like all that I don't hate facing. Artist would be one, I don't hate facing the Artist by any means. Really, there are very few that I actively just can't stand facing. So I think overall what this shows me is that, yes, I am a little surprised to see that it's almost a third of killers that I don't like facing, but I'm also pleased to see that really, realistically speaking, it's not a crazy number. It's not some outlandish number. Now, it is double what Killa Whale said he doesn't like. He said there are 5 killers he doesn't like facing, which I can only imagine which ones those are. For me, you've seen them here, and I am obviously interested in seeing what you feel about these things. But again, this was just a little video. I'm intrigued, really intrigued to see what everybody hates facing off against, because I am worried it's going to be just really harsh one, especially my main, the Clown. I don't think a lot of people like facing him and all that, so that's sad. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you had a good time with this video. This was just a short little one to get something out there, because I thought it was an intriguing video topic. So I am definitely kind of piggybacking off of a bigger and better creators video here, but I hope you enjoyed it, and obviously I'll try to have more stuff out here for you soon. But if I don't have anything out before the holiday, you know, Merry Christmas and all that. I hope you have a wonderful time with you and your family. Hope you take care. Hope you snuggle up. Enjoy the holiday season. And until I see you again, I've been Das Food. Bye, friends.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my